Hi, I'm Lauren from the Pikes Peak Library District, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a couple of different kinds of sun catchers. So the first kind of sun catcher we're going to make is this one, which is kind of using these clear glass marbles and glue to make a sun catcher. And the second one uses beads and a twig and some string to make a sun catcher. So both of these should be pretty simple projects, and I'll just start off by taking you through the supplies you'll need. So for our first glass bead sun catcher, all you're going to need are some glass beads or marbles, anything like that. These came from the dollar store, but you can get them really at most craft stores. And then some kind of old container, a lid, this is an old yogurt container, this is an old butter container, some kind of plastic container like that, that you're just going to use to set your beads in. And then last but not least is glue. So you'll want some kind of clear craft glue, Elmer's glue, anything that dries clear will work just fine for this. And then a pair of scissors is also good to have, because we're going to be, if you don't have a lid that you want to use and you need to cut a container down, this way you can just trim it, because we need that slight lip to hold our beads or gems or whatever you'd like to use into your sun catcher. So once you've got all those supplies together, let's go ahead and get started. So the first step here is just to get whatever container we want to use ready. So in this case I've got this yogurt container, and I'm going to cut it down so that it's about this height. If I still had the lid, I could just use the lid, right? And it's really simple. Just take your scissors and cut down the edge. Just like that. Any old recycled lid will work just fine for this. And then the second step is to take whatever you're using for your sun catcher. So here I've got these clear glass beads, but you could use other beads like these, right? Or you could use marbles, or anything you really want to put in here would work. And then you just place it in your lid in the pattern you want it to be in. And you'll just stop when you're happy with it. Now this is a very small lid, right? So I'm not going to be able to fit many things in here. I can just kind of do a quick design that looks how I want it to look. And then once you're happy with it, what you can do is you're going to take them out, you're going to put glue down, and you're going to stick them back in. Now, if you have a complicated design or something where you're worried about not remembering how it looked, I would say take a picture of it or do a quick sketch on a piece of paper, so that you can just have a quick record for yourself of, oh yeah, I had, you know, red, green, blue, purple, red, green beads in a circle like this. And that way when you're actually at the point where you're sticking them in, you'll have a quick reference for how you did it. So in this case, I'm happy with how mine looks right now. So the next step is really just to take out those beads, grab whatever craft glue you're using, and put a layer of glue down. And really make sure that you're coating the inside, right? Because you need to have enough for the beads to stick to everything. And then once you've got it in, you're just going to start layering your beads in there. So you can see, okay, I've stuck this in the center, I've stuck this here, and you're just kind of alternating around the edge or whatever pattern you're doing until you're happy with how the whole thing looks. And once it's all stuck in there, you just leave it to dry for 3 to 4 days. So that is kind of the longer part of this step, is that it takes quite a while for it to dry. And if you get 3 or 4 days in, the way you'll know it's done is that literally it just pops out. So this is one that was made in this other lid, and after a couple days of drying it was ready to pop out. If it's not still sticking to the bottom, that just means it needs more time to dry. And this is a small one. If you're doing a bigger container like this one, you probably will need more days, right? Because you've got more glue there that still needs to dry. And then once that's popped out, you're done. You have got your sun catcher and you're ready to put this up in your window. Okay, so that's a really simple one. So that is our first sun catcher. Our second sun catcher takes a little bit longer to make, but it doesn't have that drying time, so it's ready right away. And it's another one that's really simple. So for this one, it's a hanging sun catcher, and it has a twig and then these beads coming off of it. And you could have any kind of beads that you like on here. I'm just using these round ones because I like the pattern that it made. So the supplies that you'll need for this sun catcher are just beads, of course, some kind of cord or twine that you can string beads on. Now this is this kind of clear, it's called bead and stretch, but you don't need actual jewelry cord or anything like that. You just need it to be thin enough that it can fit through whatever size bead you're using. So anything will really work for that. And then you'll want something that you're hanging it from. So I, as you can see, just use twigs, and these I just found outside. If you don't want to use twigs or you don't find any nearby, you could use a pencil, you could use a chopstick, you could use anything that's kind of straight and about that long, right? Will work just fine for this. And then you'll want something that you can hang it with. Now I'm using yarn. You could just as easily use whatever cord you're stringing the beads on. You'll just want to have something that's long enough that you can make this little hook on the top so that you can hang it. So once you've got all of those things together, you're ready to get started with this one. Now you can see I have this red piece of paper, and the reason I have that is when you're working with beads, it's easy to lose them. So I have them on a plate over here, and then when I'm actually stringing them, I use this so I don't kind of lose them on the table. Okay, so we've got our twig, and once you have your twig, the next thing you're going to do is really just take this length of cord or whatever you're using and tie it. And this will be our first strand. And the way we're going to secure it is just by tying a square knot to the top, so that's left over right, and then right over left. So a really simple knot, but one that makes it really secure. Now you don't need glue for this craft at all, but I did want to mention if at the end you want to make sure that your knots are extra secure and that they'll stay on there for a long time while they're holding these beads, you can use a little dab of glue on top of the knot once you're really sure you're happy with how it looks and where it is, just to make sure it holds in place. But for right now we won't need that. And then I'm going to measure out a longer length of cord than I actually need, right? Because these are quite short, but I want to make sure I have plenty of room to tie a knot at the bottom. So once you've got that on there, next is really just to decide what beads you want on here. So I'm just going to stick with my blue and black because I liked how those looked, and I think I'll maybe add a couple of multicolor ones, or these see-through ones in between to make sure it's really shining bright as a sun catcher. And so you'll just kind of string along, and when you have enough beads on there, when it's as long as you want it to be, all you'll do is tie a knot at the bottom. So it's pretty simple for this one. It's really just a question of you deciding how you want your sun catcher to look, and you can kind of plan out, do you want a pattern, what sorts of beads do you want to use in advance, and you could write that down and follow along, or you can do what I'm doing and just kind of wing it and see what looks nice as you go. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add beads. I'm going to do 4 strands because I think that's about right for the spacing on this length of twig. If you have a longer twig or you just want to have more strands closer together, of course you can add more than that. So I'm going to go ahead and bead these, and I'll come back when we're done and show you how to attach the handle to it. Okay, so I've finished my 4th strand, so I'm just tying off the very last strand here. And I've put a little bit of glue on top because I held these up and I liked the places that they were positioned in. And I can kind of lift this up now and see, yep, I like how that looks. I like the color layout I ended up with. So now it's time for me to go ahead and hang this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use yarn for this. So I'm just going to start off by tying a knot. Same knot as before, right? We're going to tie that square knot. And then I'm just going to measure and see how large of a hook I want to have here. So maybe I want this one to hang, yeah, maybe about like 5 inches there. So I'm just going to snip off, and I always give myself more room than I need on the yarn or twine or whatever I'm using, just to make sure that if I mess something up, right, there's enough for me to correct it and I don't have to worry about running out of string there. So we're going to do the same thing here, tie it off on both ends, and then I'm just going to trim down the excess. And when the glue dries on the cord that I have on the twig, when the glue dries there, I'll trim those as well. I just don't want to trim it while it's still wet here. But you can see here I've got my beaded suncatcher. So that's something that's a pretty simple project to do. It really only takes a few minutes to do the beading. You just kind of have to decide on what kind of beads you want to use and what kind of pattern you want to make. And then I'm just going to leave this to dry. Really in about 5 minutes this is going to be dry and ready for me to hang. Alright, well thanks for joining me today. I hope you had fun with this project. If you want to look in the description, I have some links to some ebooks and books in the library's collection that have more projects like this that are kind of fun, simple crafts you can do with items around the house or items that you can get for cheap. And we hope that you enjoyed this and ended up with some great looking sun catchers. So have a great day!